Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. And it's the easiest thing you're probably gonna do today. So go for it, just do it. Anyway, so today I realized it's been 10 years since the great 2010 when we had some of the most visceral, epic, aggressive music to ever come out, which is of course 2010 Metalcore, or 2009 Metalcore, whichever you want to call it. I'm talking about bands such as Asking Alexandria, Attack, Like Moths to Flames, and many others. Bands that really put the heavy in heavy metal. And back then I was a 13-year-old boy who was angsty, hated society, and thought that no one understood him. So I was the perfect candidate to be a part of this sort of movement. I was. I got on board head first, and yeah, I was down. I was in that shit. So today I'm gonna take a nostalgic trip back in time to talk about 5 bands that really left their mark on me to this day, and I will never forget them. So if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and let's get into this. So to kick off this list, I'm going straight ahead with my favorite band, and that was August Burns Red. They're a metalcore band that sort of took a more technical approach to their sound, and for some reason it just stuck with me forever. I loved this band so much. I bought a guitar that looks just like JB's guitar, and I played that shit all day, every day. And I listened to their entire discography, and a couple of years back I finally got to see them live after so many goddamn years, and it was a great show. It was so emotional. I knew every track they played. It was just one of those like bucket list moments, definitely. And at the time, the 2 albums that really stuck out to me the most were of course Leveler and Constellations. Leveler because of the tracks such as Empire, Internal Canon, Pangea, Poor Millionaire, and even the title track Leveler itself were all tracks that I just could not get enough of. I listened to them every day on my iPod. I didn't have that many albums at the time, but I made sure to have that one. And the other album was of course Constellations, which had the classics such as Meddler, perfect track front to back. We also had Whitewashed, and a track that became pretty much my favorite track of all time the more I listened to it, and that was of course Mariana's Trench, which was something so different when listening to it, and the build up and everything was so amazing that yeah, I still think about it to this day. Great fucking albums. And overall the band was great. We had amazing guitar work, amazing drum work by Matt Grainer, and beautiful angelic vocals by Jake. And all combined together gave this really amazing performance that was heavy, brutal, but also had a very positive way about it. So that being said, yeah, August Burns Red, kind of the GOAT for me. Okay, you knew this one was coming, and it of course is Bullet. Who's going to be on this list. Who hasn't cried in a corner listening to Tears Don't Fall on a loop, trying to figure out what is the meaning of life? Do I matter? Why did she break up with me? All these questions that will never get answered. And they never did. But anyway, Bullet For My Valentine was one of those bands that they just left a mark. I remember first listening to them, I listened to the song Hand of Blood, and I thought that was fucking amazing. I'd never heard guitar work like that before, and then when I tried playing it on guitar, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to play. Granted, I was 13 and I was a bit of an idiot. And then I found myself listening to the album The Poison, which I found to me to be like just a perfect album from front to back. We had great tracks. We had Her Voice Resides. We had All These Things I Hate Revolve Around Me. We had 4 Words to Choke On. So many great tracks, and of course the legendary Tears Don't Fall. Has there ever been a track more iconic? And as soon as you hear those opening couple of notes, you know what you're in for. You're in for an emotional roller coaster that you're gonna either end up finishing crying or dying. And then after that we had the album The Fever, which was just as good. It got us the track Your Betrayal, which today I think is still on Bullet's #1 on their Spotify. And like One Last Fight, The Fever itself, there were so many. So if I had to pick like albums to really exemplify Bullet For My Valentine, it'd have to be those 2. But unfortunately, things just don't last, because then their next album, Temper, boy, what a letdown. Why would they think that making a Tears Don't Fall Part 2 was necessary? I'll never know. Next, we have probably one of the more famous bands off this list, and that is the band Asking Alexandria.
Oh my God!
Of course, you know the name, you know the game.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
Asking Alexandria is a band that pretty much, I don't know, sort of like set themselves apart from everyone else because they brought in this idea of having metalcore, but with electronic music. And I was just like, what? Because I'd never heard that stuff before. It was unique, it was different. And frankly, I hated it when I first heard it because at the time of being a 13-year-old idiot, I thought that if there was anything more than drums, bass, and guitar, and of course vocals, it wasn't metal. So I just in my head thought it was dumb stuff.
Is keyboard metal?
No, Patrick.
Keyboards are not metal.
But then for some reason, I couldn't stop listening to it, regardless of how much I hated it. And then before a while, I actually just ended up appreciating it. And now I'm like, Stand Up and Scream was a great album. Their iconic, legendary album that combined so many things into one, that's unbelievable. At times, you could have deemed it as crunkcore, which I don't really care for at all. Where we had screams, we had cleans, we had breakdowns, we had licks, riffs, electronica, dance music, disco music, everything was there. Cinematic shit as well. It was insane. There was so much going on that album. And somehow it was still all coherent in some way. I never would have guessed that was possible, but they did it. So of course, Asking Alexandria had to be on this list because pretty much everybody knows it. Stand Up and Scream, iconic album, which of course, like tracks like Not the American Average, Final Episode, and even I think it's I once maybe was something like that, A Cowboy King. I don't know what the fucking track's called, but you probably know the one I'm talking about. But yeah, so Asking Alexandria, still solid. Probably because it was mixed by Joey Sturgis. Amazing mixing engineer. Moving on, we have probably the oldest band on this list, and that band is Killswitch Engage. Killswitch Engage is a band that actually started back in the 90s and cemented themselves as one of the biggest metalcore acts to date, to the point where even today, people still talk about them, people still listen to them, and they're still putting out albums and touring and headlining sometimes. I mean, when there was touring and live shows. Oh, COVID. Can you go now, please? But yeah, Killswitch Engage. And back when I was 13, this was the time period where we had Howard Jones as the frontman going hard on the vocals. And what a great frontman he was. He brought this sort of operatic, classical style that I hadn't heard before. It was unique, it was different. It made Killswitch more unique onto themselves and not just some screamy deathcore band that they were before. And he was featured on the album's End of Heartache. Also, if you're a guitar player, the track itself, End of Heartache, was probably one of the easiest things to ever play. It was a great track. We had The Rose of Sharon, fucking brutal, and then cut to the next album, Daylight Dies, which had the iconic and legendary My Curse. The opening track, Daylight Dies as well. My Absolution, another fucking great one. And this album also brought us probably one of the best WWE intros, probably barring Motorhead for CM Punk, which was This Fire. If you hear that opening part, you know what I'm talking about. It is so good. It is just so good. But anyway, that's Killswitch Engage. Afterwards, they brought back in Jesse, who was the original vocalist of the band. And even though they've sort of cemented itself as that kind of band, I'll never forget those days of Howard Jones streaming it up as the Killswitch frontman. And finally, we have the band As I Lay Dying. Another staple in the metalcore scene. They're definitely one of the more older bands, not as old as Killswitch, but still quite old. And during this time when I first got into them, I was listening to the track, The Powerless Rise. And during this time when I was getting into them, I actually discovered them through this app. I don't know if anybody remembers this app. It was called Tap Tap Revenge 3. What it is in a nutshell, it was Guitar Hero, but used your fingers. Since my parents weren't allowing me to have Guitar Hero, because I should play real guitar, which thank God they said that, this was the only option. And the only track on it by As I Lay Dying was Beyond Our Suffering. And my God, not gonna lie, when I first heard that track, I was terrified.
I'm in danger.
That was the scariest shit ever. I hadn't listened to music that heavy before. And I know what you're thinking. That doesn't seem that heavy, especially compared to today's standards. But back then, fucking hell, that was brutal. And I just remember playing that song over and over again and never really listened to any of the rest of the album. But then I did, and I was blown away again. Because it did have that sort of bipolar thing going for it where I had the clean and heavy vocals, but it was still very solid. And The Powerless Rise was a great album. We had tracks like Parallels, which everybody should know, Condemned, another great track. And then from there, I also ended up listening to the album prior to that, which was An Ocean Between Us. Another fucking great album where we had the songs Nothing Left, awesome, and The Sound of Truth, I think was one of them as well. And of course, and I think my favorite track off it was Forsaken. These guys were definitely on the heavier side, and even though there was that whole thing with Tim, you know, going to jail for the bad thing he did, and they're back now, regardless of all the controversy and all the bad stuff that are affiliated with As I Lay Dying, I still love this band, especially from that time when I was heavily invested in them. But anyway, that's As I Lay Dying. So that's it from me. I want you to write down below what were the bands that really, you know, stood out for you during your teenage years. I'll be curious to see what you got to show. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want to keep up to date. And once again, I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been supporting this channel. It really means a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.